College football fans, black and gold fans, welcome in and welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire college football landscape. If you are a college football fanatic who has been out doing a walkabout, if you have been lost in the wilderness, looking for a place to call home, a place to put your feet up, to feel comfortable, looking for a safe haven, a gathering spot, not just for you, but for all college football fans alike, then I say to you, welcome home. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. It's great to be back with you once again on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. This is my Week 5 preview and picks episode. We are fresh off the heels of an action-packed Week 4. It did not disappoint. We had some teams that scored huge victories. I'm talking about Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Utah, Washington State. Even Northwestern got in on the action, and Florida State absolutely. Penn State as well, and I'll have to talk about that game here a little bit. And also those on the other end of the spectrum that suffered crushing defeats. We're talking about Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Colorado, and unfortunately our Iowa Hawkeyes as well. I mean, really, when it came down to it, it was a complete house of horrors, a fright night. You know, with it being the Halloween season, it was a very, very spooky night that we saw come to fruition there in Unhappy Valley against Penn State. Now, if you want to get a little bit more in-depth feedback and commentary from yours truly, please feel free to check out my last episode, which was my instant reaction and recap of the Iowa at Penn State game. I don't think you'll like it. I think you will absolutely love it. And before I say anything more, that leads me into my next point of emphasis. I need to give a big shout out to all of you who made that episode an absolute smashing success. I'm talking, here we are 3.5 days later. It's had 4,600 views, hundreds of comments, and with your help and support, the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog is now officially over 200 subscribers. So my next milestone is a big whopping 300. So thank you for all that you have done for the channel and will continue to do. And once again, everybody just flocked to get involved with that episode. Iowa fans, Penn State fans, college football fans, all over the place, just in general got involved. So thank you for everything that you did. Without you, none of this would be possible, but I need your help. Let's get to that 300 milestone. So please subscribe, like, share, comment. These episodes are driven by you, the college football fan. So please let your voice be heard. Exercise your right. Please comment about anything you hear or maybe don't hear during the episodes, and I promise I will get back to each and every one of you individually sooner than later. So thank you again for making that episode absolute next level in the upper atmosphere. It was an absolute smashing hit. Thank you for all of you who got involved. So what's going to be on the tap for today? The usual preview and picks episode. I will have, going into the upcoming weekend, my Heisman Trophy update. As far as if it was up to me, these are the 4 individuals who would be invited to NYC as of today. And then after that, I will move into my 4 big underdogs of the upcoming Week 5. Teams and games that you need to be mindful of, because I do see at least one of the 4 scoring that big time upset, whether they're on the road or at home. And then the final segment will be simultaneously the big one, my simultaneous preview and pick segment for Week 5 coming up this weekend. So without further ado, guys and girls, let's go ahead and get it on. All right, so let's go ahead and move into my updated Heisman Trophy candidates, who I think as of today I would go ahead and invite to NYC, to the New York City Athletic Club, to have a chance to hoist the coveted hardware of this year's Heisman Trophy. And I always like to get this started off and just go ahead and give the floor to Nile Kinnick, Iowa's lone Heisman Trophy winner, with his very inspirational speech going back to 1939. Great words. There we go. Good stuff there from Nile Kinnick. All right, so as of right now, these are the 4 individuals who I would see being seated at in NYC. They are in no particular order. I've got quarterback Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, who continues to light it up this season. Next, another quarterback, Caleb Williams from USC, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. Next is quarterback Quinn Ewers from Texas. And lastly, quarterback Jordan Travis from Florida State. And as you could tell there, my list is both quarterback and Pac-12 heavy. Now, the 3 individuals who I think are kind of the next in line, who are just slightly on the outside looking in, but definitely they will have a chance to get into the top 4. I'm looking at quarterback Bo Nix from Oregon, quarterback Cam Ward, that's right, from the Washington State Cougars, a guy who is flying completely under the radar, maybe even off the radar for a lot of you, but this cat can ball. See what I did there? Cougars, cat. And lastly, the only non-quarterback on my short list, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. So that's where I have the Heisman Trophy candidates listed as of right now. Please let me know what you think. Comment. Did I leave somebody off? Is somebody not deserving to be on this short list? Please get involved. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Click that button to get notifications. Get involved. I want to hear from you. Now, next segment that I have each and every week during my preview and picks episode is my underdog segment, to where I give you each and every week 4 games and teams where I see an upset potentially is brewing and or will happen. Last week I did okay. I went 1 for 4, but I've done very well overall this season with my underdog picks. So here we go. Let's go ahead and set the mood. Good stuff. Classic cartoon here. If you're 40s like me, Hanna-Barbera cartoons. All right, let's go ahead and stop underdog right there. All right, so my first underdog this week, let's call this the Maltese, the very small underdog, but still underdog nonetheless. I'm looking at a game within the Big 12. Cincinnati travels to BYU, that's right. Cincinnati travels to Provo to take on BYU, who finds themselves a 2-point home underdog. Now, this is a BYU team that's been up and down. 2 weeks ago, they traveled to Arkansas, scored a very impressive victory over an SEC foe. Last week at Kansas, lost in a very, very tough battle against the now undefeated and ranked Kansas Jayhawks. So I was a little bit surprised to see BYU being a home underdog in this matchup, but don't be surprised if you see the Cougars, the Mormons, come out on top. Now, next on my list of underdogs, maybe the Beagle, breed as far as the spread on this game. I'm looking at a non-conference tilt. Utah State, the other Aggies, a team that I'm familiar with because they did square off against my Hawkeyes in opening week. Utah State travels to UConn. That's right, a fellow dog, the Huskies. And UConn finds themselves a 6-point underdog in this matchup. Jim Mora Jr., last year one of the great stories in all of college football, guiding and leading UConn back to a bowl game, back to preseason in his inaugural season as the coach. UConn's off to a rough start this season, but I just got a feeling that they're going to surprise the Aggies after them traveling across country in this matchup. I believe it's in Hartford, I believe, is where the University of Connecticut is. If not, please let me know. I'm just shooting from the hip on that one. Now, my next underdog game I want to bring to your attention. This is the Golden Retriever. This is a SEC tilt, an old Southwest Conference matchup. I love how this game is now being played each and every year inside Jerry World down there in Texas. So I'm talking about Texas A&M faces off with Arkansas. In this game, Arkansas finds themselves a 6.5-point underdog. Now, the big news concerning the Aggies of Texas A&M is their starting quarterback, Connor Wegman, has now been lost for the season due to a foot injury. I think this team is in trouble, and I think they were in trouble even before this injury happened. So I am not going to be surprised at all, neither should you, if the Hogs are able to pull the upset here, because quite frankly, I think they're just as good, if not better, than A&M. And plus, very few things bring me more pleasure than seeing Coach Jimbo Fisher lose. That's just me. Maybe I'm biased. I think I probably am, but a lot of you would agree with me as far as how anti-Jimbo Fisher I am. Now, my last underdog of week 5, this is the Great Dane as far as the point spread in this game. I'm talking about number 12 Alabama travels to Mississippi State to take on the Bulldogs. Bulldogs, underdogs once again. Mississippi State finds themselves a 14.5-point underdog at home. Now, I get it. Mississippi State is off to a rough start this season. This is the first full season of new head coach Zach Arnett. They go from a offensive first perspective with Mike Leach, the Pirate, now to a defensive-minded head coach in Zach Arnett. So they have been a little bit slow out of the gate. They were involved in a big-time shootout last week against South Carolina. They got absolutely boat raced the week before at home against LSU. Now, I just have a feeling that this is going to be a tough game for Alabama. Their defense has played much better the last couple weeks, but they are still looking to make strides and for a solid identity. Offensively, Jalen Milroe last week definitely looked a little bit better as their quarterback. But going into halftime, it was a 7-6 ball game. Ole Miss was leading down there in Tuscaloosa, but Nick Saban doing what he does, he made the adjustments. They pulled away for the victory in the second half. I just got a feel Mississippi State is going to put up points. If you've forgotten about him, let me remind you, I believe that Will Rogers, the quarterback at Mississippi State, is the best pure passing quarterback in the SEC. He fit Mike Leach's air raid offense to a T. That's why this year you're not hearing a lot about him, because he has had to change identities a little bit on the offense. But I still think he is going to keep this team in the ballgame. And Alabama better be looking out. And also, too, something else that might be on Alabama's mind, next week they travel to the aforementioned Texas A&M Aggies to take them on down there in College Station in Jimbo Fisher world. So It might be, you would call, a what kind of potential game for Alabama, Admiral?
It's a trap.
Thank you, Admiral Akbar. So maybe it could be a trap game as well for Alabama, looking ahead to next week's big matchup against A&M. So guys, that is my underdog picks for week 5. Let me know what you think. You agree, disagree? Like, share, comment, subscribe, get involved. So that's it for this week's underdogs. Good luck to you. We'll be pulling for you. All right. Oh, I love it. I just have too much fun sometimes. All right, guys. Here we go. We're going to move into the big segment of this episode. That is my official Week 5 preview and picks. Now, if this is your first time with me checking out one of these preview and picks episodes, it's pretty much status quo. Each and every week, I will pick 13 games to choose from. Straight up winners. I do not do point spread, none of that. And most of these games, you will know about them, but some are kind of the off-the-radar games that I think will go very far towards both conference championships and even to college football playoff berths or just good bowl games invites in general. So 13 games, but within those 13, I will have 4 specialty games that I pick each and every week when they are playing, that is, and I'll get to those 4 specialties later on here in this segment. So last week, yours truly went 10-3. I had a very good pick'em week. Now for the season, I'm 39-13. That's good for a 75% clip. Pretty damn good. Considering especially the goal that I've set for myself this season, I hope to finish the regular season at 70% or better as far as picking correctly. So right now I am a little bit ahead of that at 75%, but I got a long way to go. So we'll see how that plays out throughout the regular season. So let's go ahead and get started with today's picks. Now my first game, huge game within the Sun Belt Conference, and when it comes down to the group of 5 as far as potentially trying to get that coveted New Year's 6 bowl game invite. I'm talking about USA. That's right, South Alabama. The Jaguars travel to James Madison. The Dukes, who are undefeated, an excellent program, and they have been for years aplenty. Prior to last year, they were at the FCS level, but they were a national title contender every year. So this game is for early bragging rights and the lead within the very strong, deep Sun Belt Conference. So how I see this game going. James Madison sits there undefeated, off to a great start. I actually think they should be ranked, but if they win this game, they will be. USA is off to a 500 start. They're 2-2. They lost opening week against Tulane. Not a bad loss at all. By the way, they were last year's Cotton Bowl winners. They knocked off USC, the mighty Trojans. And USA went on the road and defeated Power 5 Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago. But then last week, over the weekend, they laid a complete egg at home against Central Michigan of the MAC. So it really comes down to, hey, like Slim Shady, will the real USA stand up? So this is a tough game for me to call. I love James Madison. It was a travesty that they weren't in the Sun Belt title game last season. They should have been. They earned the right, but denied because it was their first year at the FBS level, an absolute joke of a rule. But I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm taking the Jaguars of South Alabama. I think maybe over the weekend, the loss against the Chippewas was just maybe a bad spot looking ahead to this matchup with the Dukes. And plus, if you checked out my preseason bold predictions and crystal ball predictions episode, I picked the South Alabama Jaguars to actually get that New Year's 6 bowl invite representing the group of 5. So give me USA, the Jaguars, in this big matchup. Next matchup up, we've got a big-time tilt in the SEC. Number 22, Florida, and Graham Mertz and Coach Billy Napier go on the road to take on Coach Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats there in Lexington. Now, tell me if we've seen this before. A ranked Florida team, really good athletes, coming off a big win, travel or host Kentucky, coming in under the radar, no one's talking about them. And what has happened the majority of the time? That's right, Kentucky has found a way to win. This is really the same script to me. I mean, Florida, first game of the year, lost at Utah, not a bad loss at all. Then they come back and knock off Tennessee in the Swamp, I believe in week 3. So they find themselves ranked, really good athletes, speed all over the field, but they have to play a Kentucky team that to me is like Iowa. Well, I'll say old Iowa of the South, because you know what they're going to try to do. They're going to dominate you. They want to grab you and drag you into a phone booth, control the lines of scrimmage, both on the O-line and D-line, and wear you out and control time of possession and keep the other opposing offense off the field. Can they do that again? I think they will. I'm sorry, I've seen this movie play out too many times, but I'm taking the Kentucky Wildcats to upset the Gators in this matchup. So give me Kentucky in that one. Next game up, big tilt in the ACC. Clemson, coming off that heartbreaking loss over the weekend at home against Florida State. They traveled to upstate New York to take on Syracuse inside the Dome, and a Syracuse team that's out to a fast start. They're currently 4-0, undefeated, while Clemson sits there at 500, 2-2. And here they are, they're 0-2 in ACC play. This is really a must-win game for Clemson if they want to try to advance to the ACC title game. But will they be able to pick themselves up off the mat after really leaving it all on the field over the weekend against Florida State? Syracuse, they have a really excellent dual threat quarterback in Schrader. He can throw, he can use his legs. But I just have faith in this Clemson team. I think that they are hard-nosed, they're physical, they've been tested before, mentally and physically. Dabo Swinney rallies the troops. Maybe Syracuse gets out to an early lead. I could see that happening. I just think the Tigers are too much. Give me Clemson to take care of Syracuse in the Dome. And plus, I'm looking at Syracuse too, because I have to go ahead and cue them up for Syracuse. It could be a big time.
It's a trap.
That's right, because next week, Syracuse travels to North Carolina, who's currently ranked and one of the teams atop the ACC. So maybe they're looking ahead for this game against Clemson at home. Next game up, a tilt in the Pac-12 that I think is, it's got some flair to it. I'm talking about Arizona State, the Sun Devils, and Sparky get forked. You know, one of my favorite mascots in all the nation. The Sun Devils travel to Berkeley to take on the Cal Golden Bears. Arizona State, young team, the inaugural season of their coach, the youngest coach in Division I football, in the midst of a rebuild. Cal is pretty solid. I mean, Coach Justin Wilcox is one of those coaches on this year's hot seat. He needs to win and improve, or out the door you go. And out the door I'll win. You got the rent money yet? I said no. So this game, I like Arizona State. I think they'll come out playing inspired, because this is a game I think they can win. It's going to be tough for them to find a lot of victories this season, especially now. It was announced a few weeks ago that they They have a imposed bowl ban. They cannot go to a bowl game. So it's tough to keep a team inspired and together under those circumstances. But I think when push comes to shove, Cal, home field advantage, if there is much of a home field advantage at Cal Berkeley. But I think them being the more experienced team, more upperclassmen, a little bit deeper, culture's already in place. I like Cal to get the victory over Arizona State in a very, very close game, I believe, though. So give me the Golden Bears in that matchup. Next, a big, huge matchup in the Big Ten, especially, more specifically, the Big Ten West. Illinois, the Fighting Illini, traveled to West Lafayette to take on Purdue to see if Purdue can boil her up. Both teams who are coming off of rough games. Illinois did get the victory over the weekend against Florida Atlantic. Purdue lost yet again to Wisconsin. I think the last time they beat Wisconsin was 2003. That game was at home in West Lafayette. This is a Friday night game, I believe. This is a big game for both squads. All right, Purdue they're not really tagged or listed as a favorite or a competitor in the Big Ten West. They are in a rebuild under new head coach Ryan Walters. This is a big game for the Fighting Illini. Yours truly picked Illinois preseason to win the Big Ten West. They're off to a rough start. They lost their Big Ten opener against Penn State. Big game for Illinois. I think they find a way to right the ship. I think slowly but surely their defense and offense will get a little bit more consistent. And plus, it's hard for me to bet against Coach Brett Bielema. Give me the Fighting Illini on the road. In this matchup, go Illinois. Next matchup, big, huge matchup and tilt in the SEC. I'm talking about number 13, LSU. They travel to number 20, Ole Miss, who came out on the wrong end over the weekend against Alabama, losing in Tuscaloosa. This is a huge, huge game for both of these squads. Ole Miss, if they basically want to stay in the SEC West title picture, they have got to win this game. It is a must-win game for Ole Miss. LSU, a team that a lot of people are starting to kind of forget about after that opening week loss against Florida State, but yet they've looked like a different team since. This matchup is going to be a good game. I am really looking forward to kind of the difference in styles, both of the players on the field and the coaching staff. But I've got to go with LSU. In Jaden Daniels, I trust. He was one of my Heisman Trophy candidates, and yours truly picked LSU to advance to the national title game to make the college football playoff field. So I've got to go with my gut and my head. I'm going to go ahead and take LSU to pull off a big-time victory in Oxford over the Rebels. Give me the Tigers in that matchup. Next game. I love this game. I cannot wait to watch it. Besides watching, my Hawkeyes, this is the game I have to watch on Saturday. Big tilt in the Big 12. Upstart number 24, Kansas, sitting there undefeated. They traveled to Austin to take on Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns. What a game this is going to be. All right. I'm not surprised about the success of Kansas. I told you guys in my bold predictions, crystal ball predictions episode, I thought and I predicted that Kansas would make the Big 12 title game. They can score points aplenty. Nobody is going to deny that. They are high-flying a circus on turf or on grass. It just comes down to, can their defense make enough stops? Can they get the offense off the field? And this is going to be the biggest test for both of these teams. That's right. I think Texas is going to have a tougher game and from a matchup perspective against Kansas than they did at Alabama. I love this game. And quite frankly, I already said it. These are the two teams that are going to rematch once again in the Big 12 title game. No disrespect to Oklahoma and their fans. I think you have a better squad, but I think there's still some work to do down there in Norman with the Sooners. In this game, though, I think the home crowd is too much. Kansas keeps it close, and by that I say within 14, 13 points. They keep it close the entire game. But Texas, because their defense is more battle-tested, more physical, and deeper, I think that's the difference. So give me the Longhorns at home to knock off Kansas and give them their first loss on the season. But this will be played out part 2 later on in the season, I believe anyway. Feel free to let me know what you think about my take on the Big 12 title game pending. So Longhorns in that game. And +2, I mean, I gotta say it. We all know if you're a Texas fan or an Oklahoma fan or a Big 12 fan in general, you know what game is going on next week, the Red River rivalry game. So is Texas looking ahead? Are they thinking about the mighty Sooners? Probably. So what kind of game could this be?
It's a trap.
Perfect. Spot on there, Admiral. He's in mid-season form already. Next game up, I'm telling you, a very, very juicy, beefy matchup in the SEC, in the SEC East more specifically. South Carolina and quarterback Spencer Rattler, they travel to take on Tennessee, number 21 Tennessee, that is, on Rocky Top in front of 100,000 plus of their closest friends. The fleet will be out. The Volunteer Navy, the checkered end zones, all of the pageantry of Neyland Stadium. This South Carolina team, I'm still a little bit baffled by who they are. I'm having trouble just putting my finger on. Are they legit? Are they good? Are they mediocre? Are they a pretender, a contender? I just haven't seen enough from them yet. Now, this game, I think they'll come out ready to play. This is not the Tennessee of last season, but I just can't see them getting over that obstacle of winning in that environment on Rocky Top. Because of that, I just don't think they have the horses to deal with the crowd and Tennessee overall. So give me the Volunteers. I think the Volunteers are going to win this game big. I'm talking 20 points or more. So give me Tennessee in this matchup. Next, kind of a sneaky, surprising matchup in the Big 12. West Virginia, the Mountaineers travel to Fort Worth to take on TCU, the Horned Frogs. And why is this kind of a sneaky, surprising matchup? Well, Coach Neal Brown for West Virginia is coaching for his job this season. They're off to a 3-1 start. They knocked off their arch rival, Pitt, a couple weeks ago in this year's edition of the Backyard Brawl. They're off to a good start. And TCU, as I projected preseason, is struggling. I mean, TCU being ranked preseason was just because of what they did last year, being the national championship runners-up, but they lost so much. This is not a surprise to me where they are. This is going to be a close game. And this is one of those that goes a long way for your program, but especially for Coach Neal Brown. I think the Mountaineers come out inspired. They play hard. But I just think TCU has a little bit more talent. And I think they find a way to win magically, just like they did a lot of games last year. That Fort Worth Magic. I'm taking TCU in this matchup. So that's my non-specialty picks for Week 5. Please let me know what you think. Comment, get involved, like, share, subscribe, click that button. Now let's move on to my 4 specialty games of Week 5. And the first one I pick each and every week is the Academy Game of the Week. That's right. I always pick one game that'll feature one of the service academies, Army, Air Force, or Navy, as my way to salute and say thank you for all that you do for this nation. Soldiers, men and women, currently and of the past, thank you for your service to this great nation. And this week I've picked The South Florida Bulls travel to Annapolis to take on the Navy Midshipmen. Quite frankly, I don't know much about USF. I mean, I do like their mascot. I know they challenged Alabama a couple weeks ago, kept it close the entire game. Now, is that because their defense is legit, or is that just because of the problems, especially early in the season, the Alabama quarterback problems or issues? I don't quite know, but I do know Navy. They've got the triple option. They've got the GOAT. So give me the Midshipmen in this week's Academy Game of the Week. Go Navy. Now, the next specialty game of the week I pick. Each and every week, I will pick my group of 5 matchup of the week. And the nice thing is I have double the pleasure this week because I already had one. My first pick of the day was South Alabama versus James Madison in the Sun Belt. But this is a crossover game, a non-conference matchup. We've got Boise State of the Mountain West. They travel to Memphis to take on the Tigers. Boise State off to a 2-2 start. Granted, both their losses have come against better teams, Washington and UCF. And Memphis has 1 loss on the season, and that was last week over the weekend against Missouri here locally in the Dome in downtown St. Louis. But they had a very good showing. They ended up losing by 7 points. Quite frankly, it could have been much closer. A couple of decisions by their coaching staff not to take points when they could, and they left them on the field. But in this game, for some reason, I really was high on Boise State to start the season. I still am, but they've come down a little bit for me. And watching Memphis last week, I mean, this quarterback they have, he's a gamer, he's a baller. It's at home. I'm taking the Memphis Tigers in this matchup to take care of business. Give me Memphis in that matchup. Now, my third specialty game of the week is my Iowa pick of the week. Every week that Iowa plays, I will pick the winner of that matchup. This week, Michigan State, a struggling Michigan State squad, travels to struggling, at least offensively, Iowa inside of Kinnick Stadium Saturday night. Can't wait to watch this matchup. It really comes down to which team is going to be better at having a short-term memory, making adjustments, believing in themselves and each other, and picking themselves up off the mat. It's really a tough call. I mean, Iowa, I believe, is favored by 11.5 points. So that really tells you what people think about Michigan State and the turmoil that they're having right now within their program. Officially, Mel Tucker was just fired officially from his post as Michigan State head coach. So I think it's going to be a very, very long season for Michigan State, maybe even for Iowa if that offense does not improve. But in this game, it's at home, it's at night. There's a lot riding on this game, especially for the Hawkeyes, a team that I still think can potentially win the mediocre Big Ten West. So this game, I'm taking Iowa. But if I was a betting man, I would take Michigan State. I think Iowa can win by 10 points. But to blow anybody out, that's a fellow Power 5 team, I just don't see Iowa doing that. But give me the Hawkeyes. I think they do get it done. A good bounce-back victory. But we'll see how it plays out. But give me the Hawkeyes for now. Now, my final specialty game of the week, my spotlight game of the week. Now, I hate doing this. I shouldn't say hate. That's a very strong word. But I dislike doing this because I had Notre Dame a part of my spotlight game of the week last week. Notre Dame hosting Ohio State. I have them involved again this week. Number 11 Notre Dame travels to number 17 Duke. That's right. Not a basketball game, not a b-ball matchup, but number 17 Duke, who is undefeated on top of the ACC. And the reason why I chose this as my spotlight game, the other one was Kansas and Texas, is because it's Duke hosting a huge matchup. I mean, this College Game Day, ESPN, one of the places they still have never gone is Durham. They're going to be there this weekend for it. What a great time for Durham and the Duke program, the Duke community to come out and celebrate. Can't wait to watch that Sunday morning, the first time ever there on Duke. Obviously, college basketball game day has been there many a time. But that's why I'm making this my spotlight game of the week. Notre Dame, just an absolute crushing defeat. I mean, they lose on the last play of the game against Ohio State over the weekend. Can they bounce back? Can they get that loss, that sour taste out of their mouths? That's the question. Are they more talented than Duke? Yes. Are they a little bit more physical on the lines of scrimmage? Yes. But remember, this Duke squad is not a fluke, all right? This is the Duke team that won 8 games last year. I think maybe even 9. I think they won their bowl game. And they have a S-ton of starters back. So this is not a fluke. This is a quality Duke squad, all right? Don't let the name on the jersey fool you, all right? And Coach Mike Elko is cooking with fire there, the second-year coach there at Duke. So I just think it comes down to just a physicality. I love Notre Dame's lines of scrimmage. They have a bruising running back, and they've got a quarterback who knows how to win, a proven commodity, knows what it takes to win, especially against ACC opponents, being quarterback Sam Hartman. I'm taking Notre Dame in this matchup, but would I love to see Duke win and shake up the college football universe and world? Absolutely I would. But hopefully it's a good competitive game and Duke gets to show up and show out on national television for a huge matchup for maybe the first time in their history. But that's it, guys. That's my Week 5 preview and picks episode. Please get involved. I want to hear from you. Comment, like, share. Please subscribe. The channel is growing, but I still need more help to find college football fans just like you. Expect me to be back. I probably will have an instant reaction and recap to the Iowa-Michigan State game that should be up Sunday morning for your viewing and listening pleasure. If not, I definitely will be back Monday afternoon for my Week 5 review and recap episode. So until then, thank you for your support. I hope you have a great rest of your work week or school week. Enjoy it. Be safe. Have fun. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football. And I'll see you all very soon on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Take care. Bye-bye.